So welcome to everyone as you come on in. So my name is Palmer Muntz. I am the co-chair for the Professional Development Committee for the Pacific Northwest Association for College Admissions Counseling. And we're excited to have each of you here today for the first session in our Intro to Admissions Counseling webinar series. This is something that we're trying again after a few years away. We did this back during the pandemic, and we're trying it again this year. The Intro to Admissions Counseling series is a set of about 8 monthly webinars that we are putting together specifically for admissions counselors who are newer to the profession in their first year or 2 or 3 as admissions counselors. Other folks are welcome. As you can tell by looking at my gray hair, I've been doing this quite a while, and I feel like I learn something new every time I go to a program like this. Over the course of the year, we have, I'm just going to try and show you. You know what? I'll show you the, there we go. So this is a list of the sessions. These are available on the PNACAC website as well. And because you registered for today's webinar, you are also signed up for all the future sessions. So with that, let me also introduce 2 other people that are with us. One is Aaron Jensen. Aaron is the chair for our tech committee for PNACAC. And then Ray Pepley is my co-chair for PNACAC's professional development committee. And so we're excited to have you with us. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to our colleagues from Gonzaga University who are spearheading today's webinar, and let them just run with this. We're so thankful for you taking this on and leading us through today's topic. Thanks for being here.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Hope you've had a great week. Like Palmer said, I'm from Gonzaga. My name is Becky Stockton. I'm one of our assistant directors of admission. Been in this role about 4 years now, and I'm joined by 2 of my colleagues. So Claire, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Becky. My name is Claire Silva. I'm an associate director of admission at Gonzaga, and I have been in the profession for around 16 years, so a long time, and just happy to be here with you all today and share some tricks of the trade.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carie Weeks, and I have been in admissions. Let's see, about 24 years. I'm an associate director of admission here. I'm going to be in the chat today, so putting some links in the chat for you that can hopefully be good resources for you, as well as maybe answering some questions in the Q&A. Please, if you do have questions for us, please put those in the Q&A and not in the chat, so we can make sure we're communicating well the resources that you might need in the chat, or if we do have some questions for you, we might ask those inside the chat. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us.
Alrighty, well, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Definitely feel free to put in the chat like where you're joining us from if you're comfortable. We can't see you all as participants in a webinar, so I'm not sure where all of you are coming from. But like Carie said, please use Q&A chat. We'll be happy to help. But today we're going to be talking about etiquette, ethics, and expectations in recruitment. So as we head into this travel season or recruitment season, whatever you want to call it, we really want to start it off on the right foot. Really just building a solid foundation for navigating your responsibilities this season, whether this is your first season traveling, maybe it's your second or third. There's always, good reminders. I think we can all kind of learn from each other. So let's get started. So just kind of our agenda for the day, we're going to go through sort of the purpose, like why we travel, why we do what we do, travel prep, things that we could really do ahead of time that will hopefully make our lives easier once we're actually on the road, actually visiting high schools, at college fairs, things like that. Then talk about when we're actually on the road, what's expected of us, how to make your life easier, take care of yourself, be conducting yourself in a professional manner, connecting with students and families, and then reflection. So once we get to November, maybe December, depending on when you travel, where you're going, really taking some time to reflect on the season that you just went through and start preparing for hopefully next year. So that's kind of where we're going to go in this presentation. So we have a couple polls that Claire is going to set up for us. So the first question is, what are you most excited for during travel season? You're most excited to try new food, explore new cities, meet students and families, or all of the above? Meet students and families, all of the above. Awesome. Then there's the second questions on there too. So that one is going to be, what is your go-to fast food or like fast drink? You got Starbucks, McDonald's, Panera, Jimmy John's. I'm really sorry if I missed your favorite on there. I was just going with the ones off the top of my head. Starbucks is a clear winner here. I completely agree with that. I will say that Panera is really great if you're going to sit down for a long time and work and you need to like consume something more than caffeine. If you're like wired, it's a great place to get like a salad and chill. So, okay, perfect. So just some kind of fun polls here to get us excited for the season. I know for me, travel season is probably my favorite season. It's pretty close between that and spring. But we get to do a lot of fun things this season. And so I really just want to make sure we're excited. There is obviously a lot of work, but also some fun things. Alrighty. Claire, I think you're up.
All right. Great. So as we head out on the road, it's easy to get caught up in all the things that need to get done. And there are so many things, not professionally at work you have to get done, then with your personal life, but really getting down to the reasons why we travel. And there are many reasons why we travel, but I think that we just kind of want to pull a few of these up to the top. I mean, one of the biggest reasons is that focus on building relationships with not just students and families, but the counselors you're meeting with along at the high schools, the teachers or the avid teachers you might be meeting with, the college and career center specialists. The opportunities to build these relationships can help you along the road as you go through each of the phases in our work. So of course you're out on the road and meeting with students, but then it comes to the time when we start to maybe see students' applications come in, and maybe a student needs help in submitting and completing their application. You know that person at their high school that you met, and you're able to say, oh, I know Mrs. So-and-so. She's great. If you go to, your college and career center or the counseling office, they're going to be able to help get you connected, to help you get the things that you need. This process is overwhelming for students and families. So the more opportunities that we can build relationships with connectors and people that are going to be able to help students, we're going to be able to serve students better. And it's also it just makes our job and our work that much more fulfilling, getting to know people. So building those relationships in the high schools as you go, and then of course with students and families. The work that we do, especially as we travel, is so important, and sometimes it's a grind and you get tired at the end of the season, but we do it for the students. And I think remembering that as we're out on the road and we're on our fourth visit of the day, and then we know we have a college fair in the evening, knowing that we are out and we are advocating for students, and we hope those students are going to land, at our institutions, or we hope that the students are going to land somewhere. And so being able to understand and learn, we're going out into where these students are. So we are able to advocate for those students in a better way. We're able to learn about, their high school and what's offered at their high school, and maybe what's not offered at their high school. And maybe that student's application comes through and you see it, and maybe their application doesn't look as competitive, but maybe it's because their school doesn't offer any honors or AP courses in that subject. And so the more we can learn about where we go and what the students are experiencing in their hometown, in their schools, the better we can be advocates for students and providing resources and support for students through this entire process. And then I think the travel we do, we really do focus on being intentional in that travel. So every office is set up different in how travel is planned. Maybe you schedule your own travel. Maybe someone helps in scheduling your travel. Maybe you've been on the job for one day or 3 years, but just knowing that if the more intentional we can be with where we travel, when we travel, how we travel, the more successful we'll be, the more students we'll be able to reach, the more relationships we'll be able to build. So some of the things that we do to be intentional in our travel is we look at our trends, and we look at where we have received applications from, where we receive interest or inquiries, where we've admitted a lot of students. And sometimes that can help us build our travel schedule and knowing where to go. But it also can be a hint like, okay, we haven't received anything from this school. Maybe this is a school that is an underserved school and we really want to connect and try to gain some interest from this area, from this school. So I think that one of the things that really we want to do is look at our numbers and help us be intentional in travel. And that's just one of the things that we use. And sometimes I'll have a counselor that'll reach out to me directly and say, we'd love for you to visit. And maybe it's not going to fit in my schedule. And that's okay. That's a connection I've made with that counselor. And I can say, can I send you any materials? Please know that I'll be at this college fair in the area. Or we may have another person at the area, or I can do a virtual presentation with with students who might have interest. So the more intentional we can be about where we travel is really, really helpful. I'd also say, I'm going to get more into this. Actually, let's go to the next slide. So I'll talk more about planning and prep and logistics, but this is another thing that can help you find more success in your territories, wherever you end up going. One of the things I always do is this is really old school of me, but I turn the radio on when I get in my rental car and the location that I'm at. I know this is like, people might not do this, but understanding what's happening in the areas that you're traveling to, maybe big things that have happened. We've had a lot of natural disasters and wildfires, and understanding what maybe students are experiencing in those areas, maybe different legislation that is going on in that state. Maybe there's the state that you're in or the area provides free community college for students. They're really good information to know as you're presenting to students. So maybe you can offer opportunities for transferring to your institution. Say, if whatever your path may be after high school, these are your opportunities and these are your options. So understanding the areas that you're in, whether they're current events, whether they're legislation, different trends that are happening in that area. Oftentimes we want to be, when you can talk to the counselors, maybe you have a little bit of time before your presentation starts. When you get into a high school, you can talk to the counselor and say, what do you typically see your students, where are they applying? What types of, are they going far away? Are there, how many schools are your students applying to on average? Things that you can bring up, that just little tidbits of information that might allow you to connect with the students in that school and be relatable to that region that you're in. So I think the more that you can do, and this job has so many different facets to it and can be overwhelming. So you can only do what you can do. But these are just some tips if you have time to help you find success as you go. And then the next slide is a little bit more nuts and bolts. This first one, when I first saw it, I saw Outlook and I was like, Outlook calendars. I think it goes hand in hand. Update your Outlook calendar, make sure that it is you have noted when you'll be out. It really helps colleagues and team members know where you are, but also know when you might be not as responsive. So I'm going to just give that little plug. But Outlook travel season can be long, and starting out with a positive outlook. I know that being on the road can be exhausting, and starting from a positive state really is valuable as you go. Taking care of yourself. Please take the time you need. We're all going to be getting emails as we're traveling, and the day is full of visits and fairs. Take that time to take a nap in your hotel, or veg out and binge watch a show if you need to, or take a hike if you're an outdoors person. I just saw in the chat there is a self-care session, so please check that. There'll be some great tips on what you can do to stay healthy when we're out traveling in our busy work. Materials, this is more logistics. By the end of travel season, your bag may look a little different than at the beginning, but I always like to travel. A lot of times we ship materials to wherever we're traveling. I always like to carry some with me just in case my box doesn't get there, or at least a little bit to get me through the first day or first part of the day. Whenever I run out of business cards, that is not good. So I always try to have business cards stuffed in every bag that I have. And then just remembering, maybe if you need a checklist to the essentials, your name tag, your banner. As you walk through high school, if you forgot your name tag, you're like, oh my gosh, you feel naked almost without your name tag. So that's always one thing that we always like to keep a check mark. Make sure we have those specific things that are really the essential things. We can get through sometimes if we forget one thing or another, or another, but having those essentials really helps. And then organization of your travel, making sure you have your itineraries. That makes all the difference. We're a Slate school. Some schools have different systems they use. Oftentimes what I'll do is I will take my trip from Slate and I will just put the link to my trip in my Outlook calendar, so anyone who has access can see where I'm at and where I'm at throughout the day. If you don't use Slate, you should be able to have an itinerary of where you're going, the hotels you're staying at, the schools you're visiting, and making sure that not just you have that, someone in your office has that, maybe even a significant other. I oftentimes will leave my itinerary with my family, just so if they want to just peek out where I'm at throughout the day. It's really nice to have those travel plans laid out. Sometimes you just have them on your phone or on your laptop, but sometimes printing them out is nice, whatever works best for you. In our office, there's a debate on whether TSA pre-check is worth it or not. I am team pre-check, but it depends on how much you fly and where you're flying to. So put in the chat if you're a pre-check fan or not, but that can be helpful if you have lots of flights to catch. All right, I think you're next, Becky.
Yeah, I'll also just add with the hotels, pick if you're team Marriott or team Hilton and really rack up all those points. So I'm team Marriott. That's another debate in our office. One of my best friends, who's also one of my colleagues, Alexa Gasky, if any of you know her, she is full on team Hilton. So they're both great, but one of the perks of the job, right, is getting those points. So pick one and get all the points. So just moving on to sharing NACAC core values. So of course, NACAC is our national governing body. And so we have a guide to ethical practice in college admission. And so just always grounding ourselves and these being our core values of our roles, and really keeping these in mind when we are on the road and representing our universities, also really representing our kind of industry as a whole, and NACAC. So these are education, access and equity, professionalism. This word is very hard for me. collegiality, I don't know if I said that correct, collaboration, trust, and social responsibility. I think these are all really core to what we do, and really keeping these in mind. There will definitely be hard days on the road, or even hard days on campus this fall, right? Like everything's busy. You probably have some massive visit days like we do at Gonzaga. And sometimes people are just not on their best behavior, and you might be a little annoyed, or you're just burnt out, or maybe you got a cold coming on and you're losing your voice. Like there will be rough times, but really remembering these core values, remembering why we do what we do, and just representing ourselves and our institutions well. So college fairs. So college fairs are obviously a really big part of what we do. We have a ton of them on our slate calendar right now, as I'm sure all of your institutions do as well. So just kind of some pointers, reminders, expectations for college fairs. Make sure you're on time. Definitely read your emails, your confirmation emails from whoever is putting on the fair. If they're telling you, you can start coming at like 4:30 and the fair starts at 5:30. Make sure you're on time. Make sure you're not getting there like right before the fair starts. Families and students, I promise you, at every fair, they will be there so early. And it's very stressful when you're like walking in and trying to find a table and setting everything up when like all these families are hovering. So just give yourself time. A lot of fairs will have food beforehand, so definitely take advantage of that. And on that same note, bring water, eat a snack. Important to take care of ourselves, really fuel yourself. You're gonna be talking a lot, so have your water. If you need a little like energy drink or coffee or something, make sure you have that with you. Just being approachable. We all want to be warm and welcoming to the students and families that come up to us, and really taking the time to get to know them and answer their questions. Sometimes students will just kind of awkwardly like hover and they're like staring at the stuff on your table. It can always be nice to be like, hey, how's it going? Don't want to like pounce on them too much, but make them feel welcome, and feel like they can ask a question or engage in conversation with you. And make sure you follow up. So sometimes you may get questions that you don't know the answer to. Our policy at Gonzaga is to always just say, I'm not sure about that, but I'll get back to you, rather than give someone an answer that may be incorrect. So really make sure you have like a notepad with you, or take a note on your phone. Sometimes I'll like send myself an email, and just a reminder to follow up with anyone with any questions or things like that that I may not have known the answer to. Really make sure that you're not talking bad about others, right? Like at the end of the day, we all want these students to end up in the best spot for them. And so really making sure you're not like bad mouthing people or other universities, really just supporting these students in their journey. Every school might look a little bit different, but for us, we really want to encourage students to go where places that might fit what they're looking for. So, we don't have I'm trying to think of a program. We don't have an architecture program. I get that a lot. And so, I'll say like, oh, we have, civil engineering, but if you're looking for an architecture program, here are some schools that might have it that are nearby, things like that. So just don't want to talk bad about anyone. Stay standing if you're able. That kind of goes along with being approachable. If you're like sitting down and just like being on your phone the whole time, that's not going to be super welcoming for students to walk up to. Some fairs can be very slow. So of course, take breaks if you need to, but just remain approachable. Like I said, make sure we're following NACAT guidelines, and really just conducting ourselves appropriately. And yeah, I think that's about it. Claire, do you have anything to add for college fair expectations?
No, I think that's you nailed it. Thanks.
Just want to make sure. All righty. Yeah, so building relationships with counselors. So Claire kind of already touched on this a little bit, but counselors really are our allies in this work. We all want what's best for these students. They know these students, generally, depending on school, a lot better than we know them. And they really want to get to know all of these different schools so that they can really guide their students in directions that may be a best fit for them. So really take the time, if you can, to have a chat with them. If you can, show up to your high school visit a little bit early, and just kind of see what's going on with their students. It's been really helpful, especially coming out of the pandemic, to kind of talk to counselors about the trends they're seeing with their students, and maybe things that we can do on the college side to make the college search process easier for them. These kids they've gone through a lot with the pandemic in the last few years. And so really doing our part to work with our colleagues on the other side of the desk to make sure that we reach our common goal of getting the students where they need to go and where they're going to be successful. If we follow up with any information, sometimes counselors might ask you about certain things. I had a counselor last fall that asked me about some scholarship just for her students. I had never heard of it. She was like, I don't really know what they're talking about either. Took a lot of digging, but I just kept in touch with her and found her the right answer and connected with her. These relationships are so valuable, like I said, because they know these students a lot better than we do, and really building that trust with them. Because of those relationships, we can feel like we can go to each other with questions, whether they have a question about your institution and programs you have, or something policy wise that's changing at your school. I had a counselor this year. It was a big school for Gonzaga. We have a great relationship with their counselor, and our apps were down significantly this year. And so I reached out to her and was just like, hey, do you know what's going on? Like, why are students not applying? And because we have that relationship and that trust built with her, she felt like she could really have that conversation with us of like, well, here's what other schools are doing that you're not, and this is why students are picking other schools and not Gonzaga. And so that gives us really insight into things that we can be doing better. And of course, we want students to go where they're going to be successful. But if we are maybe not communicating what we have at Gonzaga in an effective way, getting that insight from counselors can be super helpful moving forward.
Yeah, and I'll just add for that with the counselors, there's a lot of us and one or two or three, it depends on what the counseling staff looks like. And so just remembering that as we're going into that, we could be there, maybe we're their first college rep, but we might be their fourth college rep that day. And just recognizing that, I think is really important. And I think too, that they have a lot of information that counselors need to hold in their brain. So however we can help, providing information that will really be helpful for their students, or key things that, that will be good for them to relay, specifically and especially around financial aid and scholarships, key information to give to counselors, as you have a little bit of time to chat with them, is really, really important and helpful. Okay, so post-travel reflections, this helps so much as you plan for the future, or if territories are shifting and someone else or a colleague is taking over territories. The more you can do as you go, the better and easier the next season will be. So as you visit schools, as you attend college fairs, taking notes is so helpful. Sometimes it took me 10 minutes to walk from the parking lot to check into the high school to get to the College and Career Center. Those little notes about the visits that you have can really set you up for success in the future. It can also be, so those types of logistical things. Also taking note on the school, what you maybe talk to about with the counselor. Maybe the counselor, they might be having shifts in their counseling department. So you can make notes on that. So it can jog your memory. Maybe you find out that a school is changing from semesters to trimesters, and that's going to really help you as you go through transcripts for those schools. Taking notes about like what went well. It was really terrible that I had to visit this school and then this school back to back because traffic was terrible at this time, or don't start here, start there. So just really leaving yourself breadcrumbs along the way so that you can prepare. Also following up, Becky touched on this. If you are working with students or counselors and oftentimes I'll take either, if it's a paper inquiry card, I'll just write a little note on the inquiry card and I'll kind of dog ear that card so I can remember to follow up with that student. Or I take a business card, and it gets kind of hard sometimes when you have a really busy day and you have multiple people to follow up with. So if you can just get a good system of where you're going to place the information that you need to follow up with in your bag, or in your bag, wherever you're going to put it, so that it doesn't get lost, and you don't forget to follow up. Additionally, I think one of the things that I like to do is whatever system you use for tracking and scheduling visits, if I can do it right after the visit, if I'm sitting in the parking lot, I will just make the notes on my event right then and there, so I don't forget and don't have to do it later. So as much as I can do in between, I do, to save myself time later, so I can have my evening and have dinner if, without having to worry about making notes for the day. So, and then of course, always thinking about how you can improve, what would be a better path for travel, or what maybe some tips that you can. Sometimes what I'll do is, depending on the region, if I'm traveling to a different region, I'll kind of adjust my presentation that could include information that would be more beneficial, like where is Spokane? Some students in Washington know where it's at, but if I'm traveling to Hawaii or a state further away, they might not know. So having opportunities and visuals that can help them understand more, depending on the region that they're from. So have fun. There's going to be, I think, more presentation on this, but stay in touch with family, friends while you're on the road. It really you can feel disconnected, and you can feel like you've gone to dinner by yourself, like for the 5th time in a row, and you're like, this is my life. So doing little things that can keep you connected are really important. Our office uses WhatsApp to stay connected as a team. Other offices use Slack. There's other ways that people connect, group messages. I know offices do some really fun things. If you have fun things that your office does, feel free to put them in the chat. Last year we had, we printed little our mascot is Spike, a bulldog, and we printed him out and laminated him and cut him out, and everyone has a flat Spike that we travel with throughout the fall, and we'll take pictures of him on the road in different fun places, and so we share that within a WhatsApp group, and kind of keeps us connected and in a fun way. When you meet people on the road at college, yes, and Palmer has the best little mascot plush. What's Nook, right? Nook, okay. But
Nook,
definitely
the Nook, yes.
No, yes. So it's really, having little fun things like that's great. And then go out to dinner with people. If you meet people at a college fair and they're like, want to come out, we're going, just why not? Put yourself out there. It can be a great way to meet new people, and not have dinner by yourself for the 17th time. Social media can always be fun too. Memes of Admissions is great. If you're not already following, they can provide some comedy throughout the fall, as you might need it. So with that, we want to say thanks for your attention, and want to make sure there's time for questions, or if anyone wanted to add anything, or Becky, if I missed anything, or any of the colleagues leading the chat wanted to chime in on anything. And I love Palmer's comment in the chat. It says, what happens on the road stays on the road is not true. There are people, you will be surprised how easy it is for information stories to get back to your office, for things that do happen on the road. So just a good tip as you go. But just thanks for your attention, and I hope you grabbed a few pieces of information that can be helpful throughout this fall travel season.
Thank you so much, Claire and Becky, Carie. Are there other little tidbits that pop into your mind now that you forgot to say that you want to throw into the mix? We also have still time for questions if folks want to pop those in before I put a bow on the session.
Yeah, thanks, Palmer. I'm just looking at my notes and I skipped a couple bullet points, so I'll add them in now, but make sure you're dressed appropriately. Appropriate, one, for like professionally, two, for where you are climate wise, and three, for like how active you're going to be. So it's kind of a weird balance, right? Like you need to be professional, but you're also going to be at a college fair. You could be standing for like 4 hours. So maybe invest in some like comfortable shoes that are also professional. I have a pair of Rothy's. I have a pair of Allbirds. I have like a nice pair of sneakers. Would highly recommend those. They do tend to be like a little bit pricier, but really comfortable and still look professional. And of course, if you're going to be in like a hot climate, you know, make sure that you're not going to like sweat profusely throughout the day, but still look professional. And yeah, always remember your name tag, especially if you're like younger in this profession. If you don't have your name tag on, you're in a high school, you will be mistaken as a student. And if you're out during passing period, they're going to be like, go to class. And you're like, I'm 26, but thank you so much. So just make sure you have that with you.
I think too that on that note, like depending on where you travel, you can ask around what the appropriate dress might be, because sometimes a suit or maybe overdressed, but depending on where you're at in the country. So always good to just ask around.
And I've got a tip too that I always like to use with hotels and kind of planning travel. And that is that I like to plan my first high school of the day to be very close to my hotel. I find that it takes me a while to get myself out of my hotel to that first high school, but it doesn't take nearly as much time for me to get from that first high school to the next one. So I try to plan my hotel around quite a few places, quite a few high schools that are nearby that hotel that could be my first visit of the day, and then schedule further out. So that's one of my tips that I would share.
I think one other
And there's a great one
comment
added to the chat. Go ahead.
if you didn't see the chat, Aaron saying, if your school lets you charge things to your own credit card, get one with points.
Aaron did put some great stuff in the chat on if your school allows you to keep your own points, your own flight miles and everything. If you have a credit card that is for that airline, then you can actually use those points on that airline, and hotel points and things like that too. Palmer, feel free to add anything more to that. I was just trying to cover
My internet
us.
is so terrible. Thank you. What I was going to say too is be careful. You may want to have a separate card for travel and for personal, because if your reimbursements, for instance, are slow, you don't want to be racking up interest charges.
Very good point. And there is a question in the chat. And Aaron, I think maybe you were working on this one too, but we have a question about what are some good ways to make life easier for the school counselors that we will encounter. So Claire, Becky, do you want to jump in, or Palmer, if you have things you want to say too?
I think like just to begin with, when you're scheduling visits, just checking all of the different platforms like Rep Visits, Maya, Score, to see if their school is on there first and foremost, because if it is and they've already updated it with all of their slots, that's a lot easier for you to sign up that way rather than like emailing them and going back and forth. Some schools, of course, we have to do that for, but I usually will like go in and just check Rep Visits and then Score and then Maya for all my schools. I have an Excel sheet now of my territory and like which platform each school is on. So just kind of trying to make their lives easier from that sense. If they've already taken the time to lay that all out, get it on there. Of course, try to be on time. If you're gonna be late, or even if you have like a close schools together, even if I have one that I'm like a little iffy about, I'll usually email the counselor the day or two before and just say like, hey, by the way, I'm coming from, if I'm going to Federal Way, hey, I'm coming from downtown. this is when I'm leaving Garfield. I'm maybe like, I'm kind of cutting it close just so they know, of course, trying to be on time. And if for some reason something you have like an emergency on the way, of course, call them and let them know as well.
Can I jump in as a school counselor and just echo that? I completely understand leaving one school to go to another at the next school and how long or how, you know, you can have that challenge with traffic. Yeah, if you can reach out to us to let us know you're running late, just, you know, pull over, call us, and then I can let my students know that you're a bit delayed. Because like at my school, I can pull students out of class, and if I have them out of class and I'm waiting a half an hour and I don't know if I should send my students back, I mean, I usually just send them back because I can't have them out of class that long. But if you just wanted to give our office a quick call, and because I can't always answer my phone, but their office is always going to be able to answer the phone, and just say, hey, running 50 minutes late. Awesome. That's so helpful.
And I would add, like, that's a great question to ask the counselors when you get to their schools. Like, are there things that we can do that makes it easier for you, whether it was scheduling this, how I scheduled this visit, or that's always just, I think, a kind thing to do. And Erin posted a great thing in the chat about sending inquiries. If you have the ability to do that, you can email that to the counselors prior. Sometimes they can use it, sometimes they can't, but equipping them with the most amount of information to make your events successful or your visit successful makes it successful for them too.
And I don't know if everyone saw in the chat that we, our next webinar is all about best practices in scheduling visits. And it's both sides of the table. As a high school counselor, I want to know what can I do to make it a successful experience for you, and a welcoming and a just a collaborative experience for you. So I have a webinar earlier in the day. So it's September, I just lost my date, September 14th. Palmer, yours is first, or no, mine's first. I don't even know what I'm doing. Mine's first with high school counselors. It's called College Counseling 101. That's the webinar series for them. But we have some high school counselors who are going to talk about best practices for other high school counselors. And then we have someone from Eastern Oregon University who's going to also share his thoughts on that. And then Palmer, I think we lost you again. Are you still here?
I'm still here.
Oh, you are there. There you are, Palmer. And then
My number one tip for you all is make sure you get good home internet, because it will keep this from happening to you.
And then later in the day, this webinar series is going to continue on with best practices for scheduling high school visits and for college fairs too, I think. So a lot of these topics will come up in that webinar.
Yeah, we're going to have 2 high school counselors and 2 experienced admissions counselors just for a panel discussion, so you can come with your questions about what to expect, how to be best prepared, and so on. The other thing is that we are going to be setting up a Slack channel specifically for those of you who are participating in Intro to Admissions Counseling, so that that's a place where you can go and ask questions. Maybe you want to know what it's like to visit a certain school. You can go and share information, share problems. We're going to post some resources there. I think some packing lists were mentioned earlier. So sometime in the near future, Erin is going to be sending out an invitation to you all to join this Slack channel if you'd like to have a place to continue the conversations, both about this session and the ones that are coming up monthly. And again, our next one will be September 14th at 3 o'clock Pacific time. So, and I think with that, if I'm not completely frozen, I'll just say once again, thank you so much to Gonzaga University, Carie and Claire and Becky for putting this together for us. And thanks to all of you who took time out of your day to join us for this session. Thank you.
Thank you.